All right, y'all, we got your boy Coast in the chair. He just got some fresh braids. I'm actually cutting him on my lunch break. You know, I gotta bring y'all some content. So I'm gonna go grab a detachable blade to cut this down. Just wanna start brushing all this down and see what we have to cut. A little bit weird back here behind the ear. A little loose piece right here. We're gonna make sure that we don't cut that's up in the braids. Just wanna brush it down and kind of look at it at first and decide what we're gonna do. All right, so we're gonna come up. We wanna be real careful. It's a little bit easier with braids because they're so tight to the head right here. But with dreads, it's a little bit more difficult. So if you guys are doing a taper next to like some twists or dreads, you just wanna make sure you hold this hair out of the way when you get right next to it. But this is gonna be the hardest part of the haircut a lot of the time, to cut down kind of that bulk right next to the braids. Like I said, here's kind of a loose piece. I'm gonna brush it away. I'm gonna get my thumb on that loose piece. Kind of just press his head in so that I cut the hair that I need to cut, and I don't cut this piece that's kind of hanging out of the braids. So you can see it's consistent. Be a little bit difficult back here in the back behind the ear. So again, I'm just gonna move his ear, kind of stay out of the braids, cut all it down. You guys just kind of keep brushing it down, double checking it. That hair is about to come out. I'm just gonna, I'm gonna take it out. That's actually kind of a cleaner section now, you guys can see. So I just took it out. Obviously we want to kind of leave what's in the braids. The fact that it was coming out kind of tells me that it was probably short to begin with and having a hard time staying in there. So obviously I want to not cut as much of this as possible. If it's up in the braids, it's obviously like the length that he's wanting to keep. But now you guys can see we got a nice panel cut down, something consistent to come in here and do a little taper on. All right, so he wants a no C-cup taper. So guys, we could start it, let's grab my comb. We could just do it straight right here. I'm gonna kind of look at this shape of this sectioning. I'm gonna kind of mimic that. So we're gonna kind of start from the top of the ear, and we're just gonna mimic the shape that we see above it. I'm gonna come up here, make my guideline, and that way it kind of all flows together. So that's kind of how I cut every haircut. If it's a fade, you know, I look at kind of the head shape and the end style, and I want the fade to land underneath it. If it's a taper, I kind of look at maybe where the weight is or where, you know, the style is on this. It's braids. But that way we're gonna get a consistent fade going up, and our dark line is gonna follow kind of the pattern of where the braids are. So just like normal, guys, punch it in. That's how I do it. Punch it in with the slim lines. Go ahead and just clean it up, make sure it's consistent. We'll come in with the shaver and bald it out, and then we can start our first step. Still using the TPOB slime shaver, guys. This is solid. It's just like the Gamma or Stylecraft Uno. I still use my double foil, but since this is such a small area, I can get away with the single foil just fine. If we were doing a fade all the way around, I would probably use a bigger foil shaver, but you got some funny hairs right here. You guys, if you don't know with a shaver, it will not cut if it's really any more than stubble. So I just had to cut that down a little bit more, come back in and make sure it's consistent. We'll go ahead and do this taper, and then we'll kind of fade his beard out when we get done with that. All right, guys, so first step, same as always. All textures I cut the same way. Now the style might be different. On here, we're not gonna even cut the top. So the clipper work is absolutely gonna be the same every time. If it was, you know, let's say if he had waves like he used to on top, obviously I'll cut the waves different, but the clipper work, this area that we're in, would be exactly the same. On straight hair, on braids, on waves, on a fro, wherever my clipper work is, I'm gonna do it exactly the same. And now we'll come in with the boosted close. We're just gonna bump that bald line out. Just really easy at the bottom of that section. Trying to leave his vertical bar as dark as possible. So I'm not gonna go into that too much. Now we'll go halfway open. Hit that next spot, next line, just bump it up slightly. And pretty much that section's already blended together. So a little bit difficult over here behind the ear. It's gonna be a little bit of a funny spot for us to blend, but just use your corners, get in there, get it consistent. Now I'm all the way open. I'm just kind of double checking this top section. And close it up a little bit, any spots that are left, and then we can move on. It's looking pretty good. Next up, one guard open. And this is a 2-blade, guys, so not as long as the 2 guards. So this is pretty much gonna connect together. We shouldn't really see a guideline here. So one open, I'm going up about halfway into what we have left. If I need a 1.5, I'll use it. I'll probably just do it just to make sure I'm hitting all of my links within my steps. You guys know I do the same steps. So there's our open one. I'll come through one more time. His hair's kind of growing back, so I'm kind of going this way, if you guys can see. Just making sure that we get everything cut down consistent. This texture of hair, because it's wavy, just acts a little bit different. So we just gotta make sure that we approach it the right way with the clipper and make sure that it's cutting. If we were to go this way, it really wouldn't even be doing anything. And back here behind the ear, you guys see I have it tilted kind of like this. So I'm getting the hairs that I want. I'm not affecting the hairs behind it. Now we're gonna go to our 1.5, half open. I'm just basically double checking, making sure that all ties in. to the the two blade that we started with. So just making sure we're connected, making sure everything looks right. We'll come back, we'll just work our way down from here. We'll go back to the one and then close it up and take that last line out. All right guys, so back to the one open. I'm just looking at any spots I see up through here that don't look like they really blend into that 1.5. Now you guys can barely see it, but we have a slight line right here. So we're gonna go closed, right above the line. And you guys always hear me say it, we know that the half guard is what we're gonna need to connect this all the way together. So I'm not really looking, as much as it looks like it's good, I'm not really looking for the one to finish it up. I know that I'm gonna need the half. I see a little bit of dark up here above it, so I'm going back to open. And then we'll come in with the half guard and get the rest of that little dark spots out. So this is a pretty short haircut, not too difficult. Not a lot of hair to deal with. And you guys can see we pretty much already got it together. This hair back here is kind of funny. So once we line it up, I'll kind of see. I'm gonna go ahead and just hit it with my one and make sure that it's good. Now last but not least guys, half guard, half open. And I'm just looking at a few of these hairs through the middle here that's gonna bring this all the way together. And we'll be done with this side. We'll go ahead and start on the other side. We're gonna fade his beard. I guess I'll fade his beard real quick, just the very top, and then we'll move on to the other side. And last but not least, we'll finish up with a lineup, of course. Not a whole lot of hair back here, but I'm gonna go ahead and we're just gonna move this braid, kind of brush these loose hairs out. Just make it look clean. We don't want a sloppy line down here, so I'm gonna start up here with my sabers. Go around the ear, and then I'll come behind him and finish this neckline. So these are obviously hairs that weren't long enough to stay up in the braids. We'll go ahead and just take them off and make it presentable. So no different than normal. Go up around the ear, same way I always do, guys. Pivot my fingers on his cheek, pivot around his ear, nice clean circle. And we'll go ahead and fade the beard in. All right guys, so I'm just gonna start at the top of this 1.5 open. I just wanna make sure I tie in to everything underneath. You can even turn it, kind of flick into it. I showed you guys that on my beard tutorial. If you guys didn't see that, go check it out. I'm just gonna fade up. Same sets we just did. There's a 1.5. Come above it with a open one. I just want to blend it out pretty quickly, pretty compact. Close the one above that. And then go ahead and pop the guard off. Open. Close it up halfway. Close at the top. And you can see it's blended out. Oh yeah, they got you pulled tight, boy. You got a wavy hairline right now. All right, guys. So I'm just gonna spray. It probably honestly doesn't need it. You guys can see there's literally no hairs here to cut, so I'm not gonna touch it. We're just gonna focus on his corners and make sure we can get them sharp. Taking off as little as possible. I might dust him with a little black fibers just to accentuate. You see, it's so short, and he has no hair in the middle to line up, so I may kind of create something there just to give him a super dark, sharp hairline. All right, guys. So I'm kind of looking at where his hair is. Just gonna dust it on. We'll come back with our trimmers, obviously, and line all this up. We're gonna just fake it in the middle. I'm just gonna darken it so it gives him a little pop. You know, this is where I talk about where enhancements are good, because all his hair is pulled to the top right now, so he's not gonna get a sharp line. Like, it's just not gonna happen. So I'm just gonna dust these on over to the corner. We'll hit his vertical bar over here a little bit. Just the dusting, doesn't take a lot. Same thing coming this way. And you guys can do this with the enhancement card. You can do it without it. I like to use it just because it kind of keeps it. I just sprayed him with hairspray, so if I hit him too much, it's gonna stick to his head a whole lot. So, all right, guys, so we're gonna use the new Instinct trimmer. It does have the one blade on it. So remember, in the middle, I'm just lining up fibers, honestly. All right, guys, the camera shut off, but I work my way from the middle over. The middle, we're really just lining up the fibers. I really don't want to cut anything off, but I want him to have a more solid, you know, good looking full hairline. Now we worked over to this corner. I'll flip it here. Come in, give him a nice vertical bar. And guys, these are the Stylecraft Instincts. If that part was cut out, I have a review and unboxing on those if you guys want to check them out. They do have the one blade, a little bit smaller than the Saber, but so far they're pretty good. They're a little different of a shape, so I can't honestly say that the Sabers are about to go up and I'm gonna use these, but I'm gonna give them another week or so to see, you know, how I'm really feeling about them. So we'll get this hairline together little by little. We'll go hit that other side in a second. We'll lay him back and we can razor his hairline and his top beard line. I don't know about you guys, when we cut each other's hair in the shop, we don't really do our beards most of the time. Like what he got's about all that we usually do. Like, I'm gonna go ahead and taper it out, and then he can go do his mustache, cut his length down if you want. I don't know if you guys can see it from the front. I just leaned and gave it a glance. These braids have pulled that corner up so tight, so I'm gonna cut it at the lowest point possible before, you know, I really get into it to make sure that it's even. And once I get this all established, I'll go back and kind of look and make sure that, kind of let him look as well. Like, yo, this is kind of where it's looking from where the braids have pulled it. This side's a little lower, and you can kind of have your client determine if they'd rather you get into it a little more to make it even, or leave it more natural and even if it's a little bit higher on one corner. That goes for like balding clients too. Like, some clients want you to push them back on one corner to make it match the other one, and some are like, no, man, just leave it natural. So you guys can see we got kind of a down here, kind of comes up over here. I'm just gonna look at it. I'm gonna go in. I know we still have fibers right here to cut, so before we get up into his hairline, and then I know I can take that other corner a little bit higher. Those are just kind of bangs hanging down, so I don't have to worry about pushing him back. Right, so we'll just keep working it across. Again, it's pulled back on that side a little bit, so I'm gonna start getting into his braids up here, but I am gonna take these bangs on this corner just a little bit higher, so hopefully get it matching that other side. And we'll go ahead and lay him back in a second. Using a razor laying him back just kind of helps get all these extra fibers off the forehead a little bit better. Like, these trimmers are just scooting him around, so. All right, guys, so you can see he has a ton of fibers stuck on his head, so I'm gonna start off by just using this to clear. Obviously, we're gonna clear some like fuzz that he has on there, but also get the fibers off. So I'm gonna start kind of where you can see all this dusting of fibers. I mean, those are on there. So guys, honestly, most of the time, I don't spray hairspray first, because you can see like these fibers are on him. So I'm gonna have to probably, I don't know, use something to get them off. The blade will do it, but I just gotta be careful. I don't wanna beat him up. So now we'll start in the middle of his hairline, pull straight back to it, work our way towards this corner. We'll do this side of the hairline, we'll do this side of the beard, and then we'll flip him and do the other side exactly the same. So this is the Tomb45 triple cartridge razor. You guys know that's the favorite one I've used. Guys, I did find some razor blades. You might have heard me say, and we talk about it in the shop all the time, like, to me, honestly, most of the razor blades are the same. Bossio and some of them, like, swore by Astra blades. Beam swears by Dorco primes. Honestly, I've used a bunch of different ones. Nothing has ever, like, really stood out. Of course, I don't do a ton of like laying back and razor lining, but nothing really stood out. Guys, these blades I'm using right now are called, what are they called? Raw and uncut. And I got them as a sample at a show one time, and if I've ever noticed a blade being a little bit sharper, this is it. Do you agree still? I gave you something to try out.
Yeah,
I think they're decent.
I still like them.
They're good. I mean, again, like, I don't know.
They're like harder to snap. I don't know.
They are harder to snap. Yeah, I'm not sure. So you kind of get that weird curve when you snap it, where the metal broke, and sometimes it's a little tough to put into your razor handle. But I'll be honest, guys, I was with Beam somewhere, and he was like, bro, no, Dorco primes, Dorco primes. So I went home, I ordered Dorco primes on Amazon, and they came in twice. They had fallen out of the box. There was some of them missing. So I literally tried it twice. The third time I returned them and tried to get them again, Amazon hit me up and said they couldn't fulfill my order, so I gave up on that. So now we're using the raw and uncuts. We're gonna go ahead and shape his beard line, guys, just starting up high, leaving it as thick as possible. You guys know, stretch the skin. You can pull this curve pretty much straight. And we've been talking lately, guys. I've been dry shaving a lot more lately. Obviously, the better you get with a razor, you can do that. The less hair you have to shave, you can do that. But it just gives you a sharper line. So if you are gonna use shave gel, once you get this line established, make sure you wipe that shave gel off because it will give you a super fake looking line. So use it to basically make the razor glide easier. And then once you get all that hair off, wipe the shave gel off and come back, hit that line again. So no different than I do here. I'm gonna go ahead and comb that ash line out just to make sure that my line's actually where I want it. I'm gonna hit it one more time and get that line kind of solidified where we want it. So I'm looking for somebody to let me do an actual shave on them, guys. I haven't done a face shave since barber school, since the state board. To be honest, I probably won't do the 14 steps, but I do want to just shave somebody and kind of see how my razor game's working these days. I still got it. I'm sure I can do it.
14 steps down.
I ain't doing the steps. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know if I ever did do it by the steps because, yeah, I think there's areas you need to do it a certain way, but I think most of the time, you know, I hate to even say this, people in school, don't listen to me right now. Do it by the steps. But, you know, a lot of the things we learn in school and a lot of things that we do for the state board test doesn't really translate. Like, you're never going to do it again that way. And I'll be honest, you know, not many people are getting shaves these days, at least at our shop, and kind of the way we see it is like, I can lay you back and shave you, but I kind of save my razor for what we're doing right now. If you want your head shaved, like I'm gonna run a trimmer over it, run a shaver over that. You're not gonna get cut at all. I'm not gonna run the risk of cutting you and whatever. It's just, to me, it makes sense. I do know that some of the old school people, you know, getting an actual razor shave is kind of a relaxing thing. So it's not to say I absolutely would not do it, but I would probably recommend for safety and speed and just kind of how we do it today. I'll probably get some flack for that in the comments section, and that's fine. We can all cut the way we want, use what we want. So you guys just do what is comfortable for you. Like I said, for me, for speed and safety, I'm using a trimmer and a shaver, honestly, 100% of the time. You guys know I teach the least risky ways to do things. And that's the thing, I want to cause the client as little discomfort as I can. So I'm gonna recommend them to do it a way that's gonna give them that. All right, guys, that is it. Your boy Coast, back in the chair. This hairline was a little tricky, guys. I didn't want to push it back into the braids, so slight kind of wave to it. Kind of talked about it. He'd rather leave it than obviously start cutting into the braids. You can see nice kind of high burst taper, sharp beard line. I think it turned out nice, man. If you guys liked it, definitely do me a favor, smash that thumbs up down below. Leave me a comment and let me know what you think of these braids. I didn't do the braids, but make sure you guys are subscribed. Go check out the Instinct content that I just dropped, and I'll catch you guys next time.